Hi, tervetuloa. Welcome to this episode of International Business from Finland podcast with me, Mark Wiltshire, where I take you behind the scenes of my solo enterprise, or Toiminimi in Finnish, working with directors and business owners of Finnish companies, sharing your workload so you can focus on growing your business. When I announced back in October 2019 that I was now working via my Toiminimi, remember that's sole trader or self-employed or private company, I had a few people ask, are you still working at Xport? And what happened? Is everything okay at Xport? So this week I thought I'd answer the question, why did I start my own company and start working separately from Xport? The International Business from Finland podcast with Mark Wiltshire. Talking international sales, entrepreneurship, and making connections between Finnish companies, entrepreneurs, and workers migrating to Finland. So I'm going to take you a little way back. Since Xport has started and grown its network, we've attracted many different people who are not Finnish, who've moved to the area of Seinäjoki or Etelä-Pohjanmaa, and they've kind of heard of Xport and been attracted to us and become part of our network. And we kind of pulled these people together as Xport associates to try and get some work using their past experience or even their language skills. And that group stayed kind of as a freelancer group for some years. Then in early 2018, I had a few different people say to me, I don't have many people in my network. I don't have many friends around here, or even like, I'm lonely. And I thought, all these people are saying this to me. Maybe I should bring them together. And they can be not lonely altogether, hopefully even become friends. So we started this series of associates assemblies. I like the alliteration. The idea was to bring this group together so that they felt like they belonged to part of something, and also invite members of the local business community to come and present to the group, but also to meet with the group so that the associates group would get a feeling for how business is done in the Seinäjoki area, and the business community here could get an understanding that there's this group of international talent available on their own doorstep. So we had people like the Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Finnish Enterprises. And one of the people that we invited to come and speak to the group was the head of business banking at OP Bank here in Seinäjoki. And Lauri agreed to come and speak to the group. And he came to talk about this Kevyt Yrittäjä service. Now, there are many of these Kevyt Yrittäjä services that allow individuals to do work and use the service to invoice a company for the work that they've done without actually being an employee of the company. So through this presentation, I came to understand that it would be quite easy to start a small Toiminimi company using the OP Kevyt Yrittäjä service. So I thought I'd like to give this a try. I had at the time a few different pieces of side work going on, and it would be useful to invoice those directly from me rather than doing it through Xport. So I used, at the beginning of 2019, I used the Kevyt Yrittäjä service to see how it goes, because I thought it might be useful to be able to advise others in the future. And firstly, it was really easy. And the main difference being that if you use something else like Ukko.fi, then you are essentially an employee of Ukko and you invoice through them. Whereas with OP, I actually started my own Toiminimi. So It's a long roundabout way of explaining how I came to start this company in the first place. In 2019, I had some blog writing that I was doing. I got some business coaching, working with this kind of back to work group that had a business idea, and I met with them and did a little bit of sort of mentoring or coaching with them. And I also got some voiceover work. And this was all very handy because in middle of 2019 I got married. So every extra penny, every extra cent and euro came in really handy. The outcome of that was that I would work on projects for Xport, but nothing that was non-billable. And when I did work on those things, I would invoice from my Toiminimi. But it would also allow me to focus on selling myself directly to other companies on the work that I do directly. So if it was something that I did within Xport, then I would approach and try and find new customers for that. So this was kind of the additional sales and marketing resource, English conversation coaching, the native English voiceovers, business coaching, and also the being an official UK partner for Happy or Not. So I'd carried on doing the sales work for Happy or Not in the UK, and you can see one of my other blog posts on markwiltshire.com where I talk a little bit about this inbound sales work, following up on incoming leads. So this was scary, obviously, but also exciting, and gave me the opportunity to pursue other ideas. For example, the work integration for immigrants service, WISE, which I've been working on since the early in 2019. We're now sort of early 2020, and that wasn't really work that I could do through Xport. It was clearly, it wasn't international sales and growing exports for anyone. It was more to do with people moving to this area that needed some help in settling in and integrating. And so there was a little bit of a disconnect between that and Xport. So it gave me the opportunity to focus a little bit more of my time on that with a clear conscience, really. I guess it's also given me the opportunity to start this podcast that you're listening to now, that I probably wouldn't have had time for within Xport as well. That said, of course, we made this decision, and then Xport got busy. A lot of those projects came to start, and other work came in. So the second half of the year was busy, and that's actually continued into 2020 as well. So far, from the middle of 2019 until early 2020, things there have been busy, and I've been working with Xport too. For example, since then, I did a European market research for a company based in the USA that was interested in coming to Europe. Very niche market, but we were able to find potential customers for them and identify some events that they might attend. And then it led to me actually going with them to the UK to a show so that they could start their prospecting in Europe. First time they'd come to a show outside of the USA. I also was involved in a consumer research at several European trade fairs. We went there with tablets and a questionnaire and just asked people to give some feedback for a market research, and it was scary to start with, the idea of just going there and doing a survey, but we found that we got quite a lot of not short but really positive interactions with customers, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get this done before the whole world kind of closed down. So we managed to get this work finished by the early 2020. I also carried out a sales pitch workshop for a group of companies that were going to a group of companies that were interested in going to Japan, and part of the project that we worked on included this sales pitch workshop, making sure that each company knew what they were going to say in English as an international language when they were meeting potential partners in Japan. Also carried out a North America market research for a Finnish company, and following that up with some like partner search, contacting potential partners, trying to see which ones are interested before handing those leads across to my client. And then finally, I did a netnographic research. This was a new word to me. I'd never heard this word before, but kind of researching online to understand how people are talking about a particular industry so that our customer could tailor their marketing activities later in this year as they come to launch a product. So this kind of answers the question that people often then ask me, which is how does that work between you and Xport, or how are things in the office? And everything's good. Relations are still really positive with Marko and Maria at Xport. I'm still based in the same office. I have the same chair, but now I rent the chair through my own company. But it's good. I still get to see them several times a week. We can talk about the work for Xport. I can tell them what I'm working on, and it hasn't spoiled things at all. Everything is still the same, just slightly different. And I've also found that I've been able to make a few introductions when I've heard about certain opportunities for work, and I think, that's something that Xport can do better. For example, organising these larger group projects, these yritysruumahankkeet, or helping companies with applications for funding. I know they can do a better job, and if I hand those over to Xport, then when the projects start, when they get projects, there will be work coming to me from those, and it's working nicely. So that is why I started my own Toiminimi, Curiosity, and why I'm working separately from Xport, because by the time I had my Toiminimi, that became a useful opportunity for Xport to slightly restructure how it's working and keep as a viable business. Okay, so as is usual on podcasts, I'm going to ask you to rate and review this show on whatever player you're watching on, whether it's YouTube. There's a place down there for you to rate and review, or in your podcast player. Also, if you found this podcast useful or interesting or thought-provoking, feel free to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Wiltshire. I live in Finland. We drink a lot of coffee over here, and if you can see your way to throwing a few beans in my direction, that would be much appreciated. If you want to contact me for work or with any ideas or suggestions for future episodes, then you can find me at mark.wiltshire.tmi@gmail.com. Your email will come directly to me. And of course, you can find my website, markwiltshire.com. There's contact forms through there as well. Thanks as always to Mark from Dodo Bones for the theme music. You'll find a link to Dodo Bones in the show notes. And that's it for now. So until next episode, goodbye.